to the North Carolina Bar Association Real Property Section's Return to the Vault series. We're really excited today to have extended the invitation for this particular presentation to members of the litigation section, the construction section, and also the estate planning section. So our numbers have been phenomenal for people who want to join this session of Return to the Vault. I'm Hope Carmichael. I'm a partner with the law firm of Jordan Price, Wall, Gray, Jones, and Carlton in Raleigh. And more importantly, I'm Matt Waters' law partner. Matt is on a plane back from California right now, and he has the Return to the Vault series is his brainchild. He is the chair-elect of the Real Property Section. Matt will be joining you again next month, but for today, you get me. I practice commercial real estate as well as community association law. I'm a former member of the Real Property Section Council and a longstanding member of the Real Property Section. So both as a litigator and as a real estate attorney, I know how important this particular presentation is today. We are going to be hearing from Elizabeth Harrison, Biz, as we know her more fondly. Biz is the Raleigh branch manager and title counsel for Attorneys Title. She is a past chair of the Real Property Section and a long-standing and just invaluable member of the Real Property Section of the Bar Association. Currently, Biz sits on the Bar Association's Legislative Advisory Committee for the Bar Association as a whole. And so her role in understanding this transition that we are all living through, or at least in 4 counties so far, from VCAP to Odyssey and e-filing, and what that means for all practicing attorneys in the state is why we have such great participation in this program today. So welcome, everybody. We're thrilled to see the great participation. This monthly series was conceived by the Real Property Section to kind of re-engage and re-energize membership of the section. It's been a great success. There have been monthly programs, and the recordings of those can be accessed by going onto the section community page and going under the library. There are also forms there for real property practitioners if you're a member of the section. And we all know that that's a valuable member of our valuable part of all of our practices. The next program for Return to the Vault will be on May the 10th. The topic is to be determined. And if any of you have ideas or suggestions for future content for Return to the Vault, please do email Matt Waters, my law partner, mwaters@jordanprice.com. There is also a call for volunteers that we want to send out for the Real Property Section. I have personally already signed up. This is a great thing that the Bar Association does, the Empower Hour for free legal answers. The Real Property Section is going to sponsor a specific section via Zoom on April the 25th from noon to 1. And if all section members of the Real Property Section will look for an email from Breanne Shea, it should come from noreply@ncbar.org, just in case it gets caught up in your spam, or contact Breanne directly for the registration link for that Empower Hour, and a great opportunity for all of us to do some pro bono service for the state and for citizens in our state. Today's sponsor, we certainly want to thank. Troy Crawford is with us. Troy, I see you over there on the screen with LM Title. He is managing counsel for LM Title, and you'll have a chance to hear from Troy at the end of the presentation, as well as some prize drawings for participants today. So thank you so much to LM Title Agency for sponsoring our program today. So without further ado, I am now going to turn this over to Biz Harrison because she's got a lot of content to go through. Biz, I'm going to stop sharing and let Breanne pick it up. from there so that you can control the PowerPoint there where you are, Biz, at the Bar Center. And Biz, you need to unmute, or Brianne, y'all need to unmute yourselves there. Let's see. You can.
Can you? Sorry.
I can hear you, Biz, but what y'all need to do is turn down the sound of the presentation so that you can't hear me, and then you will not be hearing the feedback when you're talking. It's amazing how much expertise we have on Zoom meetings at this point in our lives, guys.
So can you hear me now?
I can hear you, Biz, but I'm getting that echo. If you can just turn the sound down on the computer. Don't turn the microphone down, just turn the sound down. And give me a mic check now, Biz.
Brianne's still working on it.
Okay.
Sorry. Brianne's laughing. This is why.
How about now, Biz? Yeah, you're muted now.
Okay, she's saying. Now.
Okay. Biz, give me a testing 1, 2, 3.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. And there's
Brianne's nodding yes. So I'm going to start while Brianne is still trying to get the PowerPoint where I can move it forward. I'll start back again and say good afternoon. For those of you that I don't know, I'm a Wake County real estate lawyer. As Hope said, I am the Raleigh manager and title counsel for Attorney's Title here in Raleigh. I've been on the title insurance side of things for about 6 years. Prior to that, I was a real estate transactional lawyer for over 20 years in private practice. My father, Woody Harrison, is also a 50-year plus real estate lawyer out of Wilson, and he is also a former chair of the real property section. So as you can see, dirt law is very much in my blood, and that's why I've been very much involved in this project, in this Odyssey project, because it's very personal to me. I believe in the value of the service that real estate practitioners and their staff provide to clients through thorough title examination. And I also believe in the importance of protecting our North Carolina Court and Register of Deeds records. Right now, we have one of the best record systems in the country, and I've been able to see that from being in title insurance and seeing what other states have and other places that where their record systems haven't been maintained the way North Carolina's record systems have been maintained. So it's very important at this critical juncture as we're switching over. Okay, thank you. As we're switching over to the electronic world, that we do everything in our power to preserve and protect the existing record system we have, that it's still functional, because other states have had to go to other means in order to be able to search their record systems. And we don't ever want that to happen in North Carolina based on what we already have. Odyssey for me is a funny name for this because it is and has already started to be quite a journey. An Odyssey, of course, means a long or eventful adventure or a journey or an experience, and we're just on the cusp of that. You'll see on the screen, hopefully, because it's on, I'm not seeing it on the large screen in this.
This is it.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully you're seeing on your screen right now what the real property section has been doing since last summer. And we're actually late to the game on this. So I would say before COVID, maybe a year before COVID, it might have even been 2 years prior to COVID, the AOC and the court system got involved in trying to get the contract together to create this electronic system. And they have a task force, but there wasn't really anybody from the real property section involved on that task force. They were mostly litigators, members of the AOC, and members of the court system. So I feel like we've come into this kind of late in the game. And you'll see from the slides, starting in about July of last year, when the state bar put out kind of their first announcement that Odyssey was getting ready to actually go live, it's sort of all came to a head for us in that very first announcement. They made it very clear that VCAP or legacy systems would be actually be turned off on a specific date before the new system, Odyssey, would be turned on, and there would be what I call the blackout period. And that was kind of the first alarm bell that started ringing and ringing very loud for members of the real property section that we needed to do something, because to have the court system and the register of deeds still function, but not be able to see what is being filed in the courthouse for a blackout period, obviously was something that we just couldn't deal with. So that's really how we came into the process late in the game, and then started asking questions and realized that we wouldn't be able to test the Odyssey system until it was actually live. So there were a lot of unknowns. You'll see on this timeline that everything that happened, all the meetings and the back and forth, we were really just trying to get out in front of it and speculate how the system would work and make sure some of the fundamental parameters that we need for real property practitioners were put in place or thought about, until the actual February 8th was the date in the 4 pilot counties, which are Wake, Harnett, Lee, and Johnston, that VCAP and the other legacy systems, what I call, went dark. But I guess a better way to think about it is they were frozen in time. So you're going to hear me use that term as we go forward, of when VCAP was frozen. And you will also hear me refer to VCAP as a legacy system, because that's what the AOC refers to VCAP and many other systems as legacy systems. So for us in the 4 pilot counties, the dark period started from February 8th, and it ran until February 13th of this year, when we went live with Odyssey in those 4 counties. And then you can see that post going live, we've had several meetings with not only the clerk from the Wake County clerk's office, but also with AOC directly. And we've been in constant contact with the AOC, and the AOC is listening to our concerns. But we've got basically a long way to go still to get our concerns fully addressed and heard, because of coming into the game so late. On this next slide, you'll see, I'm just going to kind of start and explain sort of what Odyssey is for those of you that aren't in the pilot counties, so that you can understand some of the terminology. But everybody knows that we've been on a DOS-based system for years, and now we're converting over into this everything the e-courts. And actually the system, I'm going to get to the page that shows you, sorry, I'm scrolling through fast. The system is called an integrated case management system, and it's actually combining 40+ existing court systems into one, all into this, what they call the ICMS system, or Odyssey. So what we're going to be talking about primarily today is the transactional side of real property, not not the litigation side. If you are a real property litigation attorney, you need to know a lot about e-filing, which is a different side of the Odyssey system as a whole. And I think this slide, which is an AOC slide, best sort of describes it to you, how many things that they're combining in this large project. And I jumped forward and I'm going to jump back real quick. Sorry, hope I'm not making anybody dizzy. Brian, can you get that off my screen? Because I can't. Thank you. Sorry again for technical issues. Thanks. All right. So the basics that you need to understand about the Odyssey system and what's going on is that, you know, to begin with, this has been long anticipated. We've all wanted to come off of this DOS-based system for years. It's finally happening because the DOS system is too expensive to maintain. That's kind of what has shifted the balance. It was always the court system didn't have enough money to, you know, update our system into the e-world, but now it's too expensive to maintain what we have. So that's why the tables have been turned. And if you understand that in what's happened, it helps everything make sense, because the reason they have picked the 4 pilot counties, Wake, Johnston, Lee, and Harnett, and Mecklenburg is going to be the next one down the road, is because once they get those 5 counties off the DOS system, their cost to maintain DOS drops by 40%. So as you can see, the court system as a whole has a reason, and an urgent reason now, to get us off of DOS, because the DOS system's not going to be functional after a certain period of time because it can't be maintained. They've named it pilot because the kinks have not been worked out of the system. As I was saying previously, they've combined 40 different types of processes into this integrated case management system, or Odyssey. And that's never been done before. So this is kind of a one-of-a-kind system, and they didn't work out all the kinks on the front end, and they've gotten to a point in the contract where they just don't even really have a choice. So that's why they've come out of the gate. And that's why, you know, everybody keeps saying, why did they pick Wake County, which is such a big county? And why would you go next to Mecklenburg and get Mecklenburg to do it after the first 4? But that's why it's DOS is not going to be sustainable any longer. So they're under the gun and they don't really have a choice. So let's see. All right, if we continue to have issues, it's frozen on me again to advance the slide. Sorry about this. I don't know, after you touched up there. Thank you. Okay, so the rollout map has changed since our involvement got started. As I said, the AOC is listening to our concerns. We're in active communication with them, but a lot of what we're asking for is developmental to the system and can't be done quickly or as fast as we need it to happen. And so you'll see on this page, this is the Odyssey rollout map. In 1 is the 4 pilot counties, 2 is Mecklenburg, which is getting ready to happen. And this map used to already label everything 3, 4, 5, but now that has changed. This has been updated, and it's now saying that Mecklenburg will happen sometime this year. And it had been saying May of 2023. So the AOC recognizes that the 4 pilot counties are still struggling in many aspects. It's not just the real estate aspect that they're struggling, but they're also having some issues with e-filing and other matters that they're working through the kinks of the pilot counties. But AOC has made, you know, efforts where they're saying we're not going to continue on the rollout plan until we can get some of these things handled. So this map is going to be very important to you going forward for the next 2 to 3 years, because once they finally get things rolling, where a lot of the kinks are worked out, it's going to start happening faster, where one section goes live, 60 to 90 days later, the next grouping will go live. And I would anticipate once they get over some of these issues, they'll put more numbers on here, so we'll have an idea of who's coming down the track. And one of the things that we've been expressing to the AOC and trying to tell them that it's imperative that we've got to know not only the go live date in any county for Odyssey, but we also need to know the blackout date, because the blackout date is extremely important for when the VCAP and the legacy systems go frozen and when we won't have access to information. In a best case scenario, and this is what in the pilot counties we talked about prior to going live, in a best case scenario, if you have enough advance notice as a real property practitioner, you really wouldn't close the transaction during that blackout period. The AOC is trying to keep that period as short as possible. However, some factors just aren't in their control. And obviously, whenever a county goes live, there are going to be things that happen that may cause, the functionality to not work as fast as they want. But hopefully, as the 2 years progress and things get worked out, it will happen quicker, and that blackout period will be reduced a little bit. But we're going to talk about the migration in a moment. But the main thing you need to understand about this Odyssey rollout plan map is that it is on the eCourts website. You are going to be wanting to look at it on a regular basis so that you understand if you're operating in a county that you don't normally do a title examination in or close a transaction in, that you're looking to see, is it an Odyssey county or is it still a VCAP county? Because a county that is not converted to Odyssey yet is still going to be active and live in the VCAP legacy system, but a county that is converted to Odyssey is going to be totally on Odyssey, where all information from go live forward will be on the Odyssey platform, as well as the VCAP pre-information migrated into the Odyssey system. And we'll talk about that some more in a minute. One thing for you to understand that happened in setting up e-filing and the ability to go to eCourts is they changed the North Carolina Rules of Civil Procedure. You'll see on this slide in section 1A-3 that they added basically a section to refer to the local rules that are not part of the general statutes, but they're actually the rules of court. And you're going to want to familiarize yourself with the rules of court because they are what control all e-filing and Odyssey. So that Rule 5 in particular is the rule that you want to, I hope today, if you haven't already, you need to go and read Rule 5, and you also need to read Rule 5.1, which is for counties that have not gone live in Odyssey yet. But you need to familiarize yourself with both of these rules. So another thing that sort of struck the real property section upon reading these rules is that these rules are really focused on filing actions. They don't really speak about indexing. So prior to going live in Odyssey, and when we were first learning about the Odyssey system, there was a grave concern that indexing had not been thought about by the makers of the Odyssey system. And so we were really concerned in looking at that. But before I leave the slide, I do want to point out and say to you that once your county has gone live in Odyssey, you are required at that time to file any action electronically as a lawyer. So you are no longer allowed as a lawyer to go downtown to the courthouse and try to file an estate, to try to file really anything. The way the rules are reading, they want you to file it electronically. So you need to be aware of that is the rule, and that is true for the judges as well. They're supposed to sign any orders and all of that electronically, no longer in a paper manner. So hopefully kinks are going to get worked out on that aspect. But here's what I wanted to talk to you about with respect to Rule 5 and our fear with everything focused on filing. The way that e-file works, when you file an action through the eCourts, it's considered filed upon the time the attorney actually submits it into the system to be filed. So it's kind of like a backdating of the filing, because it's going to go into the system and the clerk will receive it and either accept it or reject it. But we don't really know how long the timing is from the time it's actually submitted by the lawyer filing the litigation to the time the clerk accepts or rejects it. So once the clerk accepts or rejects it, it is deemed filed as of the time of submission. And that's really important to us as real property lawyers, because it's like, where's the indexing? And so what we found out from talking to the AOC is that the indexing is different. The indexing happens after it's accepted and filed, the clerk is then messing with the keying of it. And once the matter is keyed, and the clerk may not do that much to the keying, because the initial keying happens from the lawyer or whoever's inputting it into the e-file system, but the clerk in their queue may tweak the keying, and then they're going to push a button which actually populates it onto the portal, which then assigns the indexing time. And you'll see on the slide circled in red, this is a view of what a judgment in the judgment search that we're going to look at later of the Odyssey portal. When you pull up an actual judgment, what's circled is the indexing date and time. So all judgments happen and attach to real property upon indexing. And we were very concerned that indexing is when it can be seen by a third party on the public portal. And so that situation has been handled. And if you have questions about it, you can contact me or anybody from the bar, but you'll see the sections are for, the judgment statute has been tweaked. So if you look at 1-234 and 1-233, several years ago, it may have even been 10 at this point, the judgment statute was tweaked to make it very clear that a judgment does not attach to real property until it's indexed as against third parties. We're still going to have an issue with claims of liens and lis pendens, where we need, in my opinion, we're going to need to review those statutes again, because those statutes are not clear that attaching is at indexing. In those statutes, attaching is at filing. And for filing to be relating back to submission and it be where no one can find it or see it, the real property practitioners, it's gonna be problematic. And I've had people say, well, that's how it already was in the paper world. And that may be true, but in the paper world, you could go down to the courthouse and actually physically look at a temporary basket and find what was in the filing basket that just hadn't been entered and uploaded into VCAP. And as of right now, we don't really have a temporary basket capability post-migration in these counties. And that's something that we're asking for and that we will continue to talk about with the AOC and other partners, because this is really, really important to the real property practice to have constructive notice for when those types of actions, whether they're special proceedings or foreclosures or anything, for them to be up on the Odyssey portal as soon as possible to close that gap for us, because otherwise, we can't find them. So the migration process, if you're not in the pilot counties, you need to understand, again, I spoke about this a little bit before, you need to recognize when Odyssey is coming to your county that there is going to be a date that all the legacy systems are decommissioned before the go live date. And you want to know when that is, because all the VCAP data becomes frozen at that time. So anything new that happens on or after the frozen date is going to be an Odyssey. So if there's, for example, if there was a judgment that was in VCAP for a certain county, and then the county goes live onto Odyssey, you're not going to be able to find if that judgment later gets canceled, it's not going to show up back in the VCAP frozen. You're going to have to find that in the Odyssey, and vice versa. And so there's just lots of things you have to think about with what county is still VCAP and what county is still Odyssey, and making sure that you're searching in the right places for things. They have added on to VCAP, and I don't think I've put a screenshot of this yet. At the bottom of VCAP screen right now, if you're trying to look at a county that's gone Odyssey, there should be a line at the bottom of the VCAP screen that tells you that this county is no longer, that the county's on Odyssey now. So you'll want to be looking for that. And at the beginning, when the first 4 pilot counties went live, we had a problem the very first day where other counties that had not gone live on VCAP were showing that message, and they shouldn't have been. So if you get something like that, you need to report it to the eCourts email address that I'm going to show you in a minute, and I'll show you throughout this program. That's one of the types of piece of information that's very important to everybody across the state, because they need to know as they're migrating data onto Odyssey, evidently it somewhat destabilizes the VCAP system. So there can be issues with counties that are still using VCAP as Odyssey migration is happening in other places. So it's something we all need to try to communicate with each other to make sure that everybody knows what's going on. I did want to, if I didn't already say it, I wanted to mention that e-filings during the dark period. So what we were scared about was, okay, VCAP legacy systems going dark, it's frozen, we can't get this information from February 8th to February 13th. You know, what happens? But everything, court filings still happen, but judgments aren't actually indexed. Things that have to be indexed don't happen until after the go live. So you would still want to be checking. In Wake County during that dark period, they did a temporary index. I know some of the other smaller counties were doing the same thing, where, and I guess I really shouldn't call it an index. It was more like a temporary basket where you could see what had been filed. And again, as I said, as you understand the problems we're having with the search logic, that is something we're asking for going forward. If we can get it where there might be a daily list of what all the filings are by name, so that things can be found, because we're having trouble finding matters in the system. So again, I guess I jumped ahead and sort of talked about this slide already. It's the integrated case management system. Overall is called Odyssey. The VCAP, how you see the civil case processing system, which formerly was VCAP, is through the Odyssey portal. So most of what you as a transactional attorney are going to need to be reviewing is all about the portal, not on the e-file side of it. If you are a litigation attorney, you need to be going to the eCourts website and clicking on everything about e-filing and doing all the various things that they have for that. But portal is what I'm really going to be talking about today, because that's where we find the information that's important for what we're doing. So on the screen, I can't see it, but way up at the top, I've circled for you the eCourts website. Again, you're going to want to bookmark that. You're going to want to go to it on a regular basis. This is where this site and the AOC's website are where you're going to get the most up-to-date information about how this process is going and moving as we go forward. You'll see on the side of the page, I've circled portal for you, and further down, it talks about Odyssey counties and the timeline. So as I said previously, you're going to want to be checking that timeline on a regular basis. And then on further down on that page, in the eCourts website, there is an actual link to the portal, which I've circled. And then over on the side, I've just kind of highlighted in red a lot of the guides. So there are a bunch of videos that AOC has produced, and their portal guides. So I made the mistake at the very beginning of doing a lot of the e-file training, because I thought that training was going to cover everything. And the e-file training is really for litigators and if you're trying to file court actions. So the portal training is what you and your staff, you need to review basically all of these videos, especially there's one about transcribed judgments. We're going to touch on it only briefly today. And that could be a whole CLE in and of itself. And that's something you're going to want to look at from this website. So one of the things you need to understand is that there are new county codes for every county, and they kind of look like area codes. I've highlighted the 4 pilot counties. So Wake County is 910. You'll see Johnston 500. Et cetera, for Parnett and Lee and all the other counties. You can get to this page through the eCourts website, but you're going to need to know this because they have renamed court files. And you may have already seen this before, but this becomes very important. You'll see where the blue arrow is sort of at the top of the page is showing you what a new court file going forward is going to look like. And it will always have the code for the county at the end. And so if you're ever searching through Odyssey Portal for a case file, you're going to want to make sure you're adding the county code at the end. And then the block down below, this is really important for you and your staff to understand that the legacy data that is being migrated over into Odyssey. So all the old cases in your county, and I'm calling anything old, pre-VCAP frozen, I guess pre-VCAP frozen date and back, those old cases are going to retain their old case files. So they'll still look like what you're used to, CVD, CVS, et cetera, but all new files going forward, the lower arrow is showing you what codes you need to look for. In particular, the M code is very important to us, M as in Mary. That is because when I show you going forward, the judgment search side of the portal, all of the files like claims of liens and lis pendens come up as M files, and that they're marked in right now in the judgment search feature as civil judgments, but then they don't have numbers attached to them, but they show a file number and it's an M file, and you're going to want to get very familiar with that because basically we're going to be hunting and searching for claims of liens and lis pendens until some of the system problems get worked out a little bit better. Logins and permissions. So there was a lot of misinformation prior to the 4 pilot counties going live. So I wanted to harp on this for a minute. If you are a litigation attorney, you do need a login for e-file and that side of Odyssey. If you are using remote public access, RPA, which is different from public portal, you need a login or some sort of access information. And to get elevated access, you need a special login. Most real property lawyers are not going to be getting elevated access to anything. Elevated access is mainly for juvenile matters and protective matters and things that we're not really going to be focused on. If you look on the yellow side of the screen, a login or permission is not needed to search the Odyssey public portal or to print any documents from case files. So that's something that everybody needs to be aware of. It was something people in the 4 pilot counties were really worried about prior to going live, but it is not necessary. Okay, so this is what, if you go to the eCourts website and then click on the link to the public portal, this is what the public portal main screen looks like. You're going to be using this all the time, and I've put the blue arrows to show you the 2 primary functions you're going to be using are Smart Search and the North Carolina Judgment Search. And so again, bookmark this, but this is use of this site is free. You'll see over in the corner it says register/sign in, and I think it now says that it's not necessary. So you do not need that to do your searching. And this, once you open a Smart Search, this is what the screen should look like for you. And the reason that I'm telling people that is if you already have remote public access, which is also through the AOC, you may not even realize that you're entering the portal, the Odyssey portal, not through the public portal, but you're entering through RPA. And if you're entering through RPA, I've separated the screen in half. This is what it looks like. So today, for the purposes of this discussion, we are talking about searching through public portal. I don't know a whole lot about the RPA because there is a cost to use RPA. This is something that you've set up before to access VCAP and to be able to print from your office or your home. So you may still be using it. This is something you as a practitioner or your firm is going to need to work directly with your RPA interface. I do know there is one value to it that that I'm aware of, that it will return 1,000 search results in Smart Search, where the public portal will only return 200 search results. And we'll get to why that's important a little bit later. But I do not know, and I cannot quote for you what the cost is to use the RPA. And so you're going to have to do like a cost analysis, or maybe have it where you could only use it when you need to use it for certain searches that have voluminous numbers coming back, because it is very difficult to be limited to 200 search results. So that's all I'm going to say about the RPA. If you have an RPA, you're going to want to contact your AOC representative that deals with the RPA to try to get more information. I've been trying to get more for several months and haven't really gotten it. So this is all I know at this point. This is my subliminal message that you're going to see throughout the program. This is the email address with any issues you're having going forward with the Odyssey portal. You need to be sending an email to this address. Please, I can't emphasize it enough how important this is. We need to be heard. They need to understand that it's really hard to find the information that we're looking for to be able to do our jobs and protect our clients. So I cannot harp on this enough, and you'll see this message again further down the road. We're going to talk a little bit about some tips and some tricks. And one thing that has changed since we've gone live in the 4 pilot counties is they have finally introduced a filter in Smart Search where you can filter out criminal cases. So when we first went live, when you did a Smart Search, there was no way you could get rid of that set of cases, so it made your results even larger than you wanted them to be. So on this slide, you'll see where I've kind of walked you through what needs to happen in order to do the advanced filtering. So when you're on the Smart Search homepage, I've circled in yellow where it says advanced filtering, and then you've got to go down to the case search criteria, and that in highlighted it says all civil. So that's sort of more similar to what VCAP had, that was all matters when we were able to search in VCAP, than what we had when Odyssey first went live. So this is really important. And I just highlighted again that you can only get 200 search results. So you want to be careful with that. The wildcard feature, which is an asterisk, is only available in Smart Search. It's not available in the judgment search side of it. This is very problematic, and we're going to see why it's problematic as we move forward. The AOC is aware that we're having problems with this. This is out of the portal guide. You're going to want to review that portal guide, but it's showing you that when you're in the Smart Search screen, there's a little question mark kind of over to the right. And if you click on the question mark, it kind of walks you through how to use the wildcard. And you'll see over to the right, a lot of the materials talk about searching for cases by case numbers. And it's my view, after all the sort of playing I've done with Odyssey to date, is that the system kind of was set up where it's easier if you have a court file number to find a court file in the system than it is to run a name search, which that alone kind of summarizes the problem from the real property perspective in a nutshell. But so that first block is showing you how to use the wildcard with a case file, but then down below it's showing you 2 different ways to use the wildcard in searching a name. You are going to want to probably use the wildcard in both a name search and try to use it without, and see how your results come back. From what we can tell, it seems to work better with the wildcard than without. Everything right now doesn't seem very reliable. I hate to say that. The search logic is just not very strong. It's not as robust, I would say, as VCAP. So, which is a huge thing to say about the system. So on this page, you can see one of the inconsistencies that I was using as an example. The last name Nordquist is just an unusual last name. So I thought it would be a great one to show you. At the top in the right, you can see a wildcard search with just the last name Nordquist and the asterisk, which is the wildcard, came back with nothing. And down below, you see the old VCAP using just Nordquist came back, and I circled kind of what I was looking for. And this was just an example. I don't know these people or know anything about their case, so please don't think anything about that. But you can see in the VCAP system, I found what I was looking for super easy. But over in Odyssey, I had to actually have Nordquist, E wildcard to find what I was looking for. And it kind of ran on to the next page. Sorry about that. So I'm showing you this example because the system comes up with differing results, not only using a wildcard, not using a wildcard, but where you use the wildcard. It's just not consistent. There aren't any like rules that I can tell you that always work, because so far we're not really finding that anything's very consistent. This page, I'm also on the right-hand side talking about searching with just the last name in judgment search or in either search parameter. We used the last name Smith and got some results with no wildcard in Smart Search, but then used Weichert or Nordquist with the wildcard and got nothing, and which to me makes no sense at all. So again, if you're in Smart Search, which is the only feature that has wildcard, make sure you do the search with wildcard and do the search without to see kind of what results you're getting. Okay. I'm going to have to go a lot faster. Okay, the judgment search feature, you've got to be aware that right now I've got circled in yellow, you have to click inactive judgments in doing a judgment search. If you do not click that right now, you will miss every divorce that's ever happened for whatever your name is. You will miss lots of things because the system, when it migrated over, the coding, I guess the back end of the technology didn't really understand what's active and what's inactive. So from a real property perspective, you need to always be checking that box. If you've missed that box, you're missing things. They know this is a problem, and that's going to get changed. And I just emphasize that again. Judgment search, you've got to at least enter the full last name. Again, this problematic name searching. We know it's a problem that in doing any search on Smart Search or the judgment search side, when you get your results and your results find nothing, you get a screen that looks like this, where you can't print to show even what you searched. This is problematic for every real property practitioner and anybody to be able to prove what you did actually search. So AOC is aware, and hopefully that's going to get changed. A huge issue for us, I alluded to this already before, is that claims of liens and lis pendens are not labeled in the judgment search feature. This is a big problem. They show up as an M file. They were showing up as default conversion, which was just a category for everything that wasn't a judgment, that was like a money judgment. But I think the AOC and Tyler Technology have taken the default conversion wording out of it. So I was using this as an example. We knew that there was a claim of lien with Legacy Heritage Lake Road LLC that was clearly showing up in VCAP. And then when we searched it, you can see in the upper right, when we searched the full name, the way the actual entity was indexed into Odyssey, our search results came back for the other parties. So there are 8 results to the search, none of which show our named party. In order for you to know that Legacy Heritage in judgment search has a claim of lien, you would have to open up over where it says view judgment. Each of these Bell Heritage matters, you would have to open each one. And when you opened them up, you would see what's at the top of this, which is an M file, and it's still not telling you what it is. See down below, it says civil judgment, and it says active, But down below, that's what a real judgment looks like that has money owed. This is the same example I used at the very beginning. So you can tell it doesn't look the same, but it really should say claim of lien, but instead it says civil judgment. And that's all the information you can get out of the judgment search. You then have to take that case file number and take it over into Smart Search, plug it in. And so that's what I've done here. I'm showing you that I've plugged it in, and now I can see who all the parties are. And now I can see that it's a claim of lien, and that I can actually see that on this next page, which is in the Smart Search, I can tell what happened to that claim of lien. But what's going on with the search logic of Odyssey Portal is that when there are multiple parties, it's pulling all of those parties every single time. So in this case, there was a plaintiff and there were 3 defendants. And so it listed it for all of those people on both sides. So it came up 4 times, but it just came up where it's listing in the name of one of the parties, and it's not always all the parties. So it's not where you can find it very easy. This is another example of searching for an entity. Basically, a real property lawyer told me that they knew that H&H Constructors had a claim of lien or had something out there that they knew existed in VCAP. They searched it 20 different ways and didn't find it. And the response was, you have to enter the name just as it was indexed for the name search to work. How is that possible for us to know how something was indexed, especially when there could be however many variations? You know, their spaces, their different, you know, business names just have all of these different symbols. So that's kind of impossible. Even in the smaller counties, they're having issues with lack of filters in the judgment search feature. This is an example of Wellens Realty, which is an apartment. I think they own apartments, or they in something that's multifamily, where they're often trying to evict tenants. So they're not really the ones that the judgment would be against, but you'll see on this slide that 2,800 some results came up. And for somebody doing a search, they'd have to open each one to understand what's going on. So now I'm starting to fly. We've got a problem, as you can see, with Hennett. Everybody go back and read Hennett versus Phillips, you know, which talks about the standard of care for doing a reasonably prudent title exam. You know, if we can't find these judgments or claims of liens, you know, and the search logic's got to be more robust. Another thing that Odyssey's doing is it's splitting the name. Here you see Smith, Mary, and what the Odyssey system's going to do is it's going to put Mary and Smith on both sides of the V and pull everything on both sides. So as you can understand, that's going to pull way too many results. One of the workarounds we're using right now in the 4 pilot counties, which is an arduous workaround, is VCAP, frozen VCAP. Since VCAP is still available for other counties, you can go into the VCAP system and do an all county party search and pull up for 100 counties your name, if it's not a common name, and you can weed it out and see at least good information up to February 8th, so that you then can reduce your Odyssey portal search for just February 8th forward to try to feel more like you have reliable information. Judgment payoffs in Odyssey are not reliable to print out when you find them. You have to contact the clerk's office, and that's because the Odyssey system does not have a per diem feature. The AOC is working on that. So you've got to contact the clerk's office and get the clerk to actually go into Odyssey while you're talking to them, update it, and get it so you can print out a reliable payoff. Other issues quickly, the system doesn't filter out attorneys' names. So if you do a party search where an attorney is a litigation attorney, for example, Stevenson, JA, comes up 144 for just matters in Wake County. So this is a problem that they're aware of. I already mentioned the transcription of judgments. You're going to want to read about the transcription key. Punctuation, I've kind of said beats me. They've said that VCAP didn't use punctuation for indexing. They told me Odyssey is using punctuation. But then as I was preparing for this today, I found the statement down below that says punctuation and special characters should not be used in a search. So inconsistencies all around. There are indexing standards, which we fought for quite some time prior to going live, that speak to punctuation. However, it's still a mystery. And in those indexing standards, they have a disclaimer, which I've got on the screen for you. We've got other questions we've got to keep asking about the system. Is there enough constructive notice with the search logic we have to date? And there's your subliminal message again, and then be prepared. If you're not in one of the pilot counties, you need to be thinking about what you need to do to get out ahead of this. One of the things I was saying is that if you're a commercial real estate attorney in a non-pilot county, you might want to think about who your regular clients are and go ahead and create shelf files for them in VCAP so that you have up-to-date information up until when VCAP goes dark in your county, so that you're really just limiting your search period going forward. But that would be a great thing to do to get ahead of this. The NCLTA has been great and has created an indemnity form to be used during this period. It was initially created for the migration only from VCAP going dark to Odyssey going live. But since the realization that the search logic isn't working well, the indemnity forms are being used in the 4 pilot counties. You can see that indemnity both on the Bar Association website and on the NCLTA website. And title insurance carriers have picked up a requirement similar to what's on the screen to let you know if you're in an Odyssey county, you may need that. I'm wrapping up. I know I'm about to run out of time. What you can do. So there's lots of things you can do as a practitioner. One of the best things you can do, I've already said, is report the issues that you're finding to eCourts at nccourts.org. You can inform the real property section about the issues you're encountering. Please email me. I've been kind of a point person, and as you can tell, I'm really passionate about this. And I'm keeping a running list. You can plan for your title examination to take a lot longer than it normally would take, because that's just a fact of how it is at this point. If you get an email from the real property section asking you to attend an AOC meeting virtually or to send in information to the AOC, if you could please do that. We're more powerful in numbers. We did a training session back with the AOC in February and had over 1,000 participants, and that it basically maxed the AOC system, and that really said something to the AOC. I mean, they realized that, you know, they've got to listen to us, and basically, I think they are listening to us. This next page, you'll see the email on the left-hand side that I wrote. Judge Heath had been the director of the AOC, and he stepped down at the end of March, and now Director Ryan Boyce has taken the helm as of April 1st. Director Boyce was there in all our discussions in person and virtually with Judge Heath prior to coming on board, and Judge Ridgway, who is the Wake County Superior Chief Judge, has been very involved. So you'll see my email on the left-hand side just asking for an update. As you can tell, we have so many issues with the searching mechanism of Odyssey Portal that it's kind of like you have to distill down your issues to be heard. We're having to pick and choose and trying to emphasize the most important ones. You'll see on the right-hand side, this is the response that we just got last night. So I honestly haven't had enough time to really delve through it, but I did want to point out to you that Director Boyce is saying that they don't know why last week there was suddenly last week the all counties workaround in VCAP was only working for a judgment search in VCAP. It was no longer working for parties, and we really need it to be for parties because we need to look for special proceedings, foreclosures, claims of liens, you know, all of those things also in the system. And you'll see that Director Heath says that he didn't order that and he doesn't know what happened. Again, VCAP may be a little bit unstable with everything that's happening. So they're looking into that. And then you'll see from the rest of his response email, right now, the AOC is saying a temporary solution to have like a daily list of what's been filed is not possible. And they've listed their reason for that. This is something the real property sections and probably NCLTA as well will continue to work on, because I think they are hearing our issues and they are listening to us, but whether they fully understand why we need certain things, I'm not sure that they fully understand it yet. So again, we kind of speak different languages, being a transactional attorney and being a litigator. And then he's talking about with claims of liens and lis pendens, he says he's taken off the default conversion language. That's great, but we still need claims of liens and lis pendens labeled as such in the judgment search feature. So we got to keep working on that. And then he lists some other matters that they're working on with the search logic. And he does restate that Mecklenburg is going to be next. So, and that's all that I've heard, is that Mecklenburg will be the next county going forward. It's just we don't know when they'll be, because hopefully they are going to answer some of these search logic issues before that happens. But we don't know developmentally how long it will take Tyler Technologies and the AOC to work through those issues, since they're sort of back end. And then just in summary, the AOC, again, has been listening to our concerns. We don't have a clear timetable. We appreciate all that they've been doing, and hopefully we can get the construction litigation bar and some of the other sections of the Bar Association to understand what's happening from our perspective, that we've got to work harder to get the system better so that it's functioning to provide constructive notice to third parties. So thank you.
Biz, thank you so much. I think everybody on the screen, to the extent we were not already in shell shock, everybody here today is even more overwhelmed, and you have really highlighted what's so important for so many practitioners. I will say there were some comments in the chat about making the presentation more globally available. It would be helpful. Brianne, if you maybe could work on somehow giving the access to this to all of the other sections who are joining us today, or even to all NCBA members at large. That there was that suggestion in the chat. So I wanted to tell everybody, we see your comments. Those will be saved and evaluated. Sorry, there was not time for questions. I want to be sure we recognize Troy Crawford. Thanks again to LM Title for sponsoring. Troy, take it away.
I'd like to thank Biz for all her work on this. This is, I've given a lot of CLEs in my life, and a lot of times I try to scare people, but anything I've ever done with this particular presentation, a lot of the issues that we had heard about and are just problematic. There will be is that we will have a drawing of the winners, and our staff will reach out to everyone to do that. We do appreciate the opportunity to sponsor this. We think that the work that Biz and the Bar Association have done, and we're just glad to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. Thank you, Biz. Thanks to everybody who joined. We had somewhere like 220 at the high water mark of participation. So keep watching. Good luck to all of you. Please find all the HOA liens and foreclosures out there when you're doing your searches. A PSA from your HOA friends. So we'll see y'all soon. Please